I'm currently looking for ways to reduce my waste.
And if you're like me and you're trying to reduce your waste, a good place to start is a trash audit. As you can see, lots of toilet paper rolls. Those can be saved for fire starters. They can also be recycled. Now, the hardest thing to recycle is plastic. The plastic products cannot always be recycled. Right now, one of the only things that recycling service takes as far as plastic goes are things like plastic jugs. Now, if you're like me and you've read about the plastic recycling system, you'll know that even whenever you drop these items in the recycling bin, oftentimes they do not get recycled, which is heartbreaking. But we should still do it. And the reason why we should still do it is because until we can come up with a good solution for the plastic problem, we want it to be organized and separated from the rest of the trash. We don't want it leaking out into the environment. I'd say the easiest item to recycle is metal. As you can see, we've got a lovely collection of cans there. And then, of course, cardboard. So already, if you're recycling, if you're wanting to cut down on your waste, on the amount of trash you throw away, recycling is a really good place to start. And as I mentioned, you can't recycle everything, but cans, cardboard, bottles, and glass, you cannot put glass in the recycling bin, but you can take it to a recycling center. And my favorite way to cut down on waste is through composting. If you save your leftover produce and any napkins, paper towels, things that decompose, you can put them in the compost bin. Now, I keep my compost bin outside, of course, and I've got a little place set aside here. I need to rebuild it to keep the animals out, but as you can see, lots of eggshells. There's my pumpkins from Halloween, and this is going to break down and turn into fabulous soil. Now, if you're going to do it right, there needs to be an even mix of the greens, these really nutrient-dense items that are going to break down, and things like leaves and sticks that are going to add more of the bulk. There's a whole science to it, but really, it's not that complicated. Just let items decompose naturally instead of putting them in the landfill. Now, what do you do about the things that aren't necessarily trash, but also aren't necessarily valuable? I've got a whole collection of crap here in my basement, and I'm just waiting to have a yard sale. So I've got a bunch of clothes that are left over from the last clothing swap that I did. I have a couple of ugly lamps, a broken coat rack, and then a whole box of e-waste. And if you don't know what e-waste is, you should look it up because throwing it in the regular trash can cause some significant hazards. So electronic waste, old computers, old TVs, that sort of stuff, those items can actually be brought to an electronic waste recycling center, and that's the better place to bring them. Or if you're like me and you're artsy, you can save them and see if you can make little art projects. All this other junk I'm gonna try to sell in the spring, and whatever doesn't sell, I'm gonna try to find some kind of alternative use for. Because if it's not fit for donation, don't bring it to a donation center. They get so much junk and so much crap that they can't use, and that actually causes more work for them.
So if you're like me and you're trying to cut down on your waste in 2024, there's a couple of things you can do. One thing I'm trying to do is wean myself off of single-use plastics by bringing like my laundry detergent jug to maybe the soap refill station, or buying food products in bulk at a Whole Foods store or like a Mama Jean's here in my area. And if you don't already have recycling service, get that set up, or just bring your recyclable materials to the recycling center in your neighborhood. Start composting if you haven't already done that. And if you don't have the space to compost, like not everybody has a nice outdoor space to dump their food scraps, there are a lot of really cool indoor options. Some of them are kind of pricey, some of them involve worms. But look into the options, because there are plenty of ways to make sure your food scraps and those items that can decompose get the most life out of them.
What do we do about the unrecyclable items and plastic waste like this? A good solution hasn't been found yet, although there are different companies turning plastic waste into different products by melting it down. It all seems kind of dangerous, and I'm not sure what the best solution is at the moment, but I'm going to search for one in 2024.
If you're trying to live a greener life, one thing you can do is try to avoid excess packaging. All the plastic and boxes and everything that comes with products. Here are some tips. Bring a reusable bag, and any container that you need when you shop or eat out. You can bring jars with you and buy products in bulk at various grocery stores. Buy shampoo and soap in bars instead of in bottles. If something does come in a package, make sure the package is biodegradable or compostable. Better yet, avoid the package altogether by shopping for produce at a farmer's market. You can also make your own DIY beauty products and cleaning products at home. Some packaging is recyclable, so if it must come in packaging, make sure you can recycle it. And buy from sustainable companies that practice green policies. You can shop resale and avoid packaging altogether by buying used and second-hand. And for those items you don't know what to do with, try upcycling them into something new. Green living is not just good for the environment, it can also save you money. One area that can cost people a lot is their utility bills. If you find your utilities are getting more and more expensive, here are 10 tips to help you save. Filling in any gaps where air might be coming in is one way to save money. A drafty house can cost a lot on utilities. Use weather stripping or caulking, and don't forget to cover any outlets or other gaps. Conserve water by taking shorter showers. Another thing you can do is not crank the heat and take a lukewarm instead of a hot shower. Line drying clothes is not only better for the clothing, but it can also save a lot on your electric bill. Also, with your washer, use cold water instead of the hot water. It'll get them just as clean. Don't forget to replace the air filter in your house. Not changing regularly can result in a dusty home and a higher utility bill. Make sure you unplug any appliances that aren't in regular use. These can suck energy. We call this phantom power, and actually contribute to your utility bill. Set the thermostat at a temperature that's comfortable but isn't cranking the heat or the air. You can also use smart technology to raise the temperature when you're not home. Maintain your refrigerator by using the optimal degrees. 38 degrees for the refrigerator and 5 degrees for the freezer. Also, packing the freezer full so it doesn't work as hard can help. Dishwashers are actually more economical than hand washing, but if you don't have one, that's okay. Try to go easy on the water. Also, run the dishwasher at night. And skip the drying feature. If you're not using your desktop, make sure it's in sleep mode or completely powered off. This is better for the computer and for your utilities. And finally, consider solar panels to power your home. If your house is positioned in the right way for optimal use, this can save a ton of money on your electric bill. Nearly 70% of the paper products in the United States can be recycled. However, a lot of them cannot be. So what do we do with them? Here are 10 unrecyclable paper products and some things we can do with them instead. Number 1, books. Paperback and hardback books cannot always be recycled, but they can make for great decor, or you can donate them if it's something that you no longer need. Number 2, paper towels, tissues, and napkins also cannot be recycled, but they can be thrown in a compost bin. If you don't already have a compost bin, I highly recommend it. So you don't want them to have any harsh chemicals on them, but these break down and can be a part of the compost for gardening. Number 3, wax paper. If it has a waxy lining, it cannot be recycled or composted unless it's an organic waxy lining like beeswax. Number 4 are disposable paper cups like coffee cups. These cannot be recycled because of the wax lining. So a good alternative would be to switch to a reusable mug. I try to keep my reusable mug with me all the time, and I've also tried switching to using Tupperware instead of to-go boxes. Gift wrap is often embellished with decor items which cannot be recycled, so a better alternative would be reusable gift bags. I've started putting my gifts in reusable grocery totes, or like I did last Christmas, I used these little coffee mugs, these Christmas coffee mugs. So there are plenty of alternatives. Any paper product or cardboard product that has food residue left over cannot be recycled, and the same goes for food wrappers. Now, personally, I like to burn these because the greasy lining makes them great for burning. That might not be the best alternative, but there's not much else you can do with them because they can't be recycled. The same goes for receipts. Receipts are printed on this thermal BPA paper and it doesn't break down, so I usually just toss them in the fire when I'm done with them. Shredded paper cannot be put in the recycling bin because it gets caught up in the machines. You can use it as a great alternative for packing instead of bubble paper. And finally, sticky notes. Anything with a little sticky residue on it cannot be put in the recycling bin. If I can't recycle it, I tend to try to avoid it altogether, or I put it in my bonfire. So if we take some measures to just avoid these single-use paper products altogether and understand our recycling services in our areas, we can reduce the amount of work being done at the recycling center by not throwing away things that shouldn't be in there and by reducing our carbon footprint. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day. If you're like me and you're trying to live a greener life, you've probably learned about e-waste. Electronic waste is a growing problem, and according to the World Health Organization, it is the fastest growing waste stream in the world. Over 50 million tons of e-waste is produced globally, yet only 20% is actually recycled. And with toxic chemicals like lead and mercury found in many of these electronic devices, it's becoming a major problem. So here are some tips to reduce your e-waste in 2024. The best thing you can do to reduce your e-waste is to avoid buying new electronics, and you can do this by maintaining the electronics you currently have. Start by making sure your electronics are clean and free of debris by cleaning them with a dry cloth. Store them in a safe, cool, dry place, and make sure you handle them carefully so as not to break any of the parts. You can also update the software regularly to keep them in good working order. Use a surge protector when necessary, and make sure you recycle your old electronics. But before you recycle them, consider making necessary repairs. Here are some of the most common issues and how to repair them. If you find the battery frequently running low, try calibrating it by fully charging and then fully draining it a few times and checking for any apps that run in the background. Most people will experience a cracked screen at some time. These can be easily replaced at most repair shops. Overheating can be a major issue if it's used too long or it isn't adequately ventilated. Make sure it's on a flat surface and that the vent is not blocked or covered in dust. There will be an occasional software glitch. You can restart the device or update the operating system and clear out all the temporary files. And if you have a charging port issue, carefully use compressed air to remove any dirt or debris. If you expose an electronic to water or other liquids, it can seriously damage the device. So make sure you keep it dry and you use an absorbent material to dry up any moisture that might have gotten on the electronic device. And for any hardware device, such as malfunctioning buttons or other issues, you may need a professional to check out the problem. Recently, I decided to go through my collection of old electronics to see what's salvageable, what I need to get rid of, and what I need to recycle. So I had a huge collection here because I don't like throwing things in the regular trash. And as I went through, I had several laptops that no longer work. I had a brand new pair of headphones which work just fine, and several other devices. So I started by going through my entire collection of electronics and testing out each one individually. The ones that worked just fine, I put back in my regular drawer. The ones that didn't work, I tried to make some repairs, and a few things I repaired successfully. And then some items just have to be recycled. So you can see here, I've got this universal outlet, which I'm gonna keep. And I've got a few other things, like this is something that I'm gonna keep, these batteries, or battery chargers rather. So I have a box of items to keep, and as I went through the pile, it got smaller and smaller, which was nice. I also tested out all of my batteries to bring to the recycling center, and here's my collection of electronic recycling. Now, unfortunately, not all electronic recycling services are the same. A lot of them ship their products overseas where it gets dumped on third world countries and causes some major environmental hazards. So make sure you thoroughly research the company that you're bringing your devices to. I plan on taking a tour of the recycling center in my community to see how well they do and which items can't be recycled. And for those that can't be recycled, maybe I'll come up with some cool projects. I'm also going to explore which electronics can safely be disassembled and which ones can't. So thanks for watching and wish me luck!